What was your very first newspaper job? You delivered papers, right?
I tried selling newspapers door to door for my dad someplace in there. I remember spending a whole day. I was supposed to get a nickel for the newspaper, and I think I sold one. Everybody who wanted it bought it by mail at that time. You could deliver it free through the post office. If it was in county, there's a special provision. And so newspaper subscriptions were $1.50 a year. And you never stopped a subscription if a person couldn't afford to pay for it. So everybody pretty well got the newspaper. I couldn't sell any. But my first work was in the print shop after my sophomore year in high school.
And what year was that?
That would have been 1947, I think. Yeah. And that might have done some of the shaping of my interest in going into the business. I don't know.
Describe what journalism was like during this time period. What kinds of things did the Crosby paper cover?
Most news came through the door. Very few, if any, weekly newspapers had reporters. The staff was all printing staff, production staff. Might have a secretary. We would hire people to write local news notes at maybe 50 cents a week. The first time I hired a secretary fairly early in my career to help with writing a few stories. But when I started in the business, I literally did it all. I took the pictures. I sold the ads. I wrote the news, whatever was written. My dad now, before me, he only wrote news, rewrote news that came through the door if it needed it, you know. But it was my idea, and I don't know where I got it from, but my idea to start doing more with news than weekly newspapers did in those days. And I can remember I was one of the first to start going to school board meetings and city council meetings. And I had a few publishers when we go to newspaper conventions. I always loved to go to newspaper conventions. I love being around newspaper people all my life. I always thought they were a special breed. But they too were mostly printers in those days, with varying degrees of journalistic skills or abilities. And a few of them a couple of them I remember mocking me that I went to school board meetings, city council meetings, I didn't have enough to do or something, but I was really driven.
What do you see as the biggest moments in North Dakota journalism history?
I can't think of a moment. I really can't. I would say the most extraordinary thing that's happened for newspapers has been technology. Mm-hmm. And newspapers have gotten enormously better at their primary mission, which seems funny because we talk about newspapers in decline because of so many other competing media. I like to believe that there will always be a place for the printed word because there is no permanence like it. the best things that come in your email, you still print out. You want a hard copy. If you don't, someday you got to delete it. So the most important things to you are still the written word. And I'd like to hope, I read newspapers online. I watch television, of course. I'm still a little bit of a sports nut and a news junkie. And of course, I'm a critic of newspapers as well as electronic media. But I still really fervently believe that the news business for a few people is, and for everyone, it should be a professional calling. It's more than a way to make a living. It's like being a pastor of the church. It's a calling. It's a responsibility.